Hey everybody, welcome back to class. We are moving right along here, coming down the home stretch. We got a couple exciting things going on this week, and I want to kind of briefly give you an overview of both of those. Before I do that, let me straighten out my shirt here. Feeling kind of sloppy. All right, so anyhow, the leadership proper topic this week has to do with leadership discourse, communication, and identity. Man, we are getting into the deep end of the leadership studies pool here. Leadership discourse and identity are really cutting edge and interesting topics for leadership studies. Leadership discourse really has to do at heart with the words that leaders use and with the words that we use to discuss leadership. Leaders by and large influence and define and describe, motivate, challenge, redefine, change, all these important things that leadership is about through the use of words. And so the discourse study really has to do with the words that are used by leaders as a motivational change vision tool. But it also has to do with the way in which we speak about leadership. So it's kind of coming at this from different angles here. So it's very interesting. It's deep waters. It's not really designed to help you become a more effective public speaker. That's a different kind of angle. This is kind of a 30,000 foot view of the types of discourse that we use, maybe some of the embedded assumptions behind some of our discourse. So you'll see in the chapter this week, there's discussions on, for example, gendered, discourses. How our gender influences the way we talk about leadership. There's also a discussion about culture and national identity and how that influences our discourse and understanding of leadership. And then we also talk about, the text also talks about leadership identity. Now this is something I actually did my dissertation work around was leader identity and their sense of calling. And what is our identity? It's really this deep-seated sense of who we perceive that we are, how we view ourselves to be. And so in terms of leadership, how do we view ourselves as leaders? Do we view ourselves as leaders? And this critical approach that the texts get into has to kind of really challenges this whole idea of, being a leader and leadership and growing, developing as a leader. Come with all this sort of positivistic approach that we use to discuss leadership in the 21st century. So it's really some challenging stuff. It's really takes, this is I think where you're going to kind of start to feel the critical studies here of this textbook and of this class. So I hope you can stick with it. I hope you can glean something from it. And again, these aren't probably the kinds of topics that are going to help you, add something to your leadership toolkit. A lot of the things that we discuss in this class are. These ones hopefully will give you a more nuanced and mature perspective on leadership studies itself. I think that's really the goal here and probably what you're going to walk away with. So there's a couple of different activities this week. I have one similar to last week where you can choose an article in this area from the Sage Publishing holdings there. I have a link to those and take a look at the topic. And then look at the literature review, right? So we're still kind of always conscious of the literature review because that's where we're going. So take a look at summarize the topic itself, take a look at the literature review, what can you learn from it? And then the takeaway question isn't, what can I apply to my leadership, is really, what are some of the key ideas that you learned about the state of leadership studies from this particular article? All right, so good stuff, challenging stuff, and I hope you enjoy that. And then we're going to continue to move along with our literature review in our textbook here, our Markow and McAvoy textbook. We are on step 5. And again, these guys get into the deep waters of critical thinking, looking at different arguments and analysis. And what they're asking you to do at this point is to sort of look at that. So last week, we sort of cataloged the ideas in the different articles. This week, you're supposed to start looking at what is the back and forth? What is the discussion? What are the arguments that the different authors are making? And how can we begin to think about the literature that we're reviewing in a little more systematic and nuanced way? How can we start to place these authors into different areas where together they are making a conversation, an argument? So literature, you think about a literature review as a conversation, right? You are stepping back and looking at the conversation that has been taking place amongst scholars about this particular this idea that whatever your topic is. So as you look at the articles, you're saying, well, this guy's arguing for this and this guy's arguing for this, and they're both interested in the same idea, but they're taking a different approach. Or this guy is applying this to this area and this guy is applying it to this area. Now, let me just bracket that for a second. Notice how I just referred to guys looking at things. That is a discourse right there, right? That's what I would call a gendered discourse. I didn't say, these ladies, these women are looking at these things and these women are looking at these things, right? So, all right, so I'm catching myself in the middle, I guess being sensitized, through reviewing this chapter here to how discourse looks and how discourse has certain assumptions about it. All right, so just a little teachable moment right there. All right, so you're looking at the literature and you're asking, what does this author say? I'll try to get away from the gender discourse idea. So that's essentially what you're doing in this step, is you're trying to see how the authors, how their arguments are juxtaposed and compared to one another, and what basis do they make your arguments on. And again, it's really kind of in the deep weeds of critical thinking. You may have taken a good critical thinking class before, maybe you hadn't, but this is a good, not only is it teaching how to write a literature review, it's really teaching you how to think critically. And that's an important skill in today's day and age. We don't have enough critical thinkers. There's too many sloppy thinkers today. We don't want our students, I don't want my students to be sloppy thinkers. So learn what you can about critical thinking from this and apply some of these concepts to the articles that you're writing. All right? I'm not going to have any additional assignment, no additional literature review assignment this week. I just want you to keep plugging away, keep applying these ideas, keep adding to the journal articles that you're finding for your literature review. All right? So we're coming down the home stretch. I think we have about 5 weeks left at this point. So I'm trusting you all, ladies and gentlemen out there, to be doing the work that you need to do in order to do a great project, all right? So that's all I have to say in this video. I hope this was helpful. And again, I look forward to discussing some of these interesting things with you online later on in the week. So blessings to you all. See you then.